Hi everyone, it's Belinda. Welcome to Belinda's Tech Cafe. It is a new concept where I talk about my experiences in tech, and I thought I would start with a video about how I got into tech, and at the same time we can make some red bean matcha mooncakes together. I used a recipe by Jasmine Fusion Cuisine, so I'll link the video in the description. I already made everything, so all that's left for us to do is assemble the mooncakes. I'm doing a voiceover for this video because I wanted to release it in time for Women's History Month, and at the time of filming my house was too noisy, so I hope this turns out alright. My journey into tech starts in 2015, which was when I graduated from high school, and I started university knowing that I would pursue a bachelor's of music in piano, but since I have Asian parents and they wouldn't let me just study music and I decided that I didn't like engineering, I chose computer science as my double major. I knew nothing about computer science, but I was inspired by this character Felicity from the TV show Arrow. She was always someone who was super smart, and I wanted to be someone who was smart like her. At first, I really struggled with it. My intro class was at 8 a.m. and my teacher was really tough and scary. We had a lot of assignments and I spent every day in the tutoring lab getting help. By the time that midterms came around, my class that started with around 25 people was down to 11 and I was the only girl left. What really helped me through this class was going to tutoring all the time and also getting to know my teacher more. This teacher, who I thought was scary at the beginning, would become my advisor and a really great supporter of me throughout college. I could go to him to talk about anything, whether that was computer science, career resume help, life, struggles, dreams, and other majors. It also turned out to be like that for a lot of my other computer science professors too. Like I said, I also majored in music and eventually I added a French BA, so I really appreciated having the support of my professors in everything I did, not just relating to the classroom and not just computer science. 4 of them even came to my senior piano recital. But also when it came time to search for jobs or apply for scholarships and grants, I was able to leverage their support and knowledge. So one of my tips for new students, regardless of major, is to take advantage of tutoring services at your school if you ever need help and to get to know your professors. My first work experience in computer science started the summer of 2017 when my math professor offered me a job helping him with knot theory research. Although this field was math, we were writing scripts to analyze knot transformations, and because of this I was able to go to the joint mathematics meeting in San Diego in January of 2018, and then in spring of 2018 I presented my research at school and at a local college math conference. Summer of 2018 was when I got my first internship at an airline company. A fellow classmate recommended me, which I'm really thankful for because there was really no one to guide me on internships and interviews at first. I didn't know how to look for internships, and by the time I was looking, it was kind of late because most tech internships open applications around August and September of the year before. I also didn't know much about interviews, and it might have been because everyone assumed that I would be fine because I always did really well in class, but really I was super anxious and stressed for my interview and during my interview. I think when I left it, I cried in my car for a while. So I really didn't believe I would get the job, but I managed to do it. For the internship, I worked on developing their CI/CD pipeline. I migrated Java apps from IBM's ClearCase into GitHub, restructured them to use Gradle, and then set up the Jenkins pipeline for them. Honestly, it wasn't that great of an internship. There were about 12 interns, 4 at my location and 8 were at a different location in a different state, and I was the only girl in my state. And while everyone was really nice and I'd have lunch with the other interns every day, I didn't always feel like I could connect to them and their conversations. And the job was, to be honest, really isolating. I'd arrive in the morning and no one would be around. The sea of gray cubicles, and then I'd leave at the end of the day and still no one would be around. They had some programming for the interns to learn more about the company, but there really wasn't a support system from the team. The other engineers were mostly 10 years older or into their career, or more than 10 years, and there wasn't really this culture of getting to know people and the different things going on within tech at the company. So it wasn't really a culture fit for me. Being on an airline company was good to some extent because I was able to travel all over the US and the world on the weekends, and my family really loved it. And although I didn't have that great of a working experience, I think that there were some really good opportunities I had during it, and I learned a lot of new things about tech and myself. 2018 was also the year I was named one of 20 Google Techmakers Scholars from North America. I had this professor I knew for about half the semester. I'd mentioned how I was worried about paying for college, so he helped me search for scholarships. The best thing to do is to apply to a million scholarships as a high school senior. I think it's easiest to find and apply to scholarships then, but there are a lot of scholarships for tuition and for conferences that you can apply for later on in college too. I actually almost didn't apply for this scholarship because I only had a couple weeks to write 5 essays and get 2 letters of reference. Luckily, my piano teacher / advisor and my professor who told me about the scholarship were able to write letters, and I did those essays. I know it's hard to motivate yourself to apply for scholarships, but think about what you gain for the time spent on the application. A lot of scholarships also ask for similar essay questions, so try reusing them with edits. Like maybe I spent 8 to 10 hours on my application, but I got $10,000 for it, so it was definitely worth the time. I applied, and honestly, I didn't think I would get it at the time. I really didn't feel that confident in myself as a woman in tech. They also announced the winners late, but I remember being on spring break and getting the email, and I really couldn't believe it. So I got the scholarship, and with it the opportunity to go to the Google Student Retreat in August of 2018 at Google headquarters. Talk about imposter syndrome. The day before I left, I was so anxious. I remember calling my friend as I was packing and talking about how nervous I was to go. Because here's the thing, I went to a small private university, so the computer science program wasn't that big and there weren't many women in it. There also weren't many people who looked like me as a Southeast Asian woman. I felt like I never really fit in my classes. I liked art, music, dance, things with pretty colors and fonts. I liked fashion, taking pictures and dressing up. And most of my classmates weren't like that. Both the men and the couple of women that were in my classes, they always talked about video games and computers, and they're college students, so they never really dressed up unless it was job interview day. And everyone can dress however they like and do whatever they enjoy doing, but because I never really saw other people that looked like me, it was really hard for me to get to know the others in my class and to feel like I belonged there. At this point, I was also in computer science still because of my parents, so all I really knew about computer science was what I did in class and going to tutoring every day. I thought that these people who won the scholarship must be really incredible or must be really into computer science to have been chosen, because a lot of them did come from famous schools like Berkeley, Harvard, Penn State. But then I got to the student retreat, and for the first time I really felt like I belonged. It was a retreat for the recipients of all Google student scholarships, so Women Techmakers, Generation Google, Lime Scholars, and also participants of their Code U program. There are around 250 people from all different countries, ages, and education levels. Everyone there was super friendly and interested in learning more about each other. And yes, a lot of them were people who had internships at places like Google, Microsoft, Facebook, and really into tech, but they were also such dynamic and interesting people. They weren't people that just lived and breathed tech like I assumed. They had lives and interests outside of tech, and they were also amazed by the things I did, which at the time was running my Instagram, being a piano major, and having an internship for an airline company. I can't list them all, but I'll name a couple of friends who are active on social media as women in tech and link them in the description. My incredible roommate, Dasani, loves drawing and making art, so she incorporates these things into posts and blogs about being a product manager at Microsoft. Marie is the brilliant woman behind the blog, Instagram, and YouTube channel Girl Knows Tech, where she talks about her experiences as a machine learning grad student. And Julia is working at Microsoft currently, but she always inspires me with her fashion and makeup looks as a multi-talented content creator outside of work. This retreat was really the first time in my life I felt like I found my people you connect with who share a mutual respect and admiration, who accept and support the entire you. who you can build a lasting friendship with. There were also a lot of people who thought bigger than themselves, people who wanted to change the world and were actively doing it. So it was really fun. I learned so much from that experience and came away with more confidence and friends that I still talk to, who I really believe are going to be the future of women in tech. But even though everyone I met was amazing, I had a hard time comparing myself to them. These friends are out there doing amazing things, getting jobs at what are considered dream tech companies and living in cool cities. Then there was me with my airline internship, going to a random small school that no one outside of the Midwest has heard of. What really helped me with this is thinking about the experiences and the people that I'm grateful for in my life. If I went to a different school, I wouldn't have met the amazing professors or friends who have supported me throughout everything, and maybe I wouldn't have even become a Women Techmakers Scholar. And sure, they may have done this or that, but there are also so many experiences that I've had that others may never have, like winning a concerto competition at my school 3 times. This kind of goes with any situation when you find yourself comparing yourself to others. I think it's really helpful to think about what and who you're grateful for and what experiences are uniquely yours. Anyway, because of my connections to the Women Techmakers Scholar program, I was able to apply for and receive a travel grant to Google I/O in 2019. I actually have a vlog about the experience, which I can link in the description. At the time that I went to Google I/O, I wasn't planning on pursuing a career as a software engineer, but it was a fun experience and I did learn new things and meet old friends and new people. I feel like you would take away more from Google I/O if you are a person that is working in tech, since it's more about what technologies you can use in your work or projects. This takes us to the summer of 2019 in my second internship. So because I triple majored, I went to college for 5 years, and this was the summer between my senior year and my 5th year. The internship was with a global food company working on ingesting big data into their Hadoop data lake. I also went into this internship really anxious and feeling imposter syndrome despite everything. I just felt like a fraud, like they would be expecting someone who is super into tech, that eats and breathes tech. I also still felt like I wasn't knowledgeable enough about tech because I wasn't as involved, but I think it was because of this internship that I really started to become more confident in myself, in my career, and a big part of that was feeling supported by the internship program and my team. They had activities for us throughout the internship and encouraged us to explore the company and meet with different people in different roles within the company. So even like directors or VPs or the CIO. My manager was also really supportive of me as an individual, and I had a tech mentor who I worked really closely with. It felt like we were just hanging out every day, and a social buddy to go on walks with, and a team to just chat about work and life. I was taking a philosophy class over the summer, and one day we ended up discussing philosophy together because I needed to write an essay. The other tech interns also became my good friends. Since half of them were from out of state and moved here for the summer, they were really enthusiastic about meeting up outside of work to explore the city, and 5 of us were Asian women, so it was kind of the opposite of my first internship. From this experience, I realized yet again that what was making me so insecure were these tech stereotypes that are in reality stereotypes. Yes, there are people who are really passionate about tech, who live and breathe it and find it integral to their being, but there are also people who just do it for a job, do it well, and are also multifaceted. I think what helped me was that I was recognized at this internship as not just someone who studies computer science and does engineering work, but as someone who's creative and has many interests outside of tech. Honestly, I thought the work was just okay, but I really loved this internship because of the culture and because of the people I met and got to work with. It was around this time that I came to another realization regarding imposter syndrome. Part of it is feeling like you don't deserve to be there. In some ways, I felt like I wasn't smart enough, didn't know enough about tech, but the idea that helped me is that everyone has a set of things they know. Think of it like a Venn diagram with overlapping circles. Between 2 people, there will be things we both know in the middle, and there will be things the other person knows that I don't know, and there will be things that I know that the other person doesn't know. For example, I have a wealth of knowledge from being a piano performance major, which a lot of my coworkers and classmates probably do not have. So it isn't a question of being smart enough, it's just that we know different things. We shouldn't feel bad for not knowing things, it just means it's something we can learn in the future. So I think what helped me was being comfortable with the idea that I don't know everything and I don't need to know everything to be capable and smart person. What I don't know, I can learn, and if people want to judge me for not knowing something, I think it tells more about their character than it does mine. The other thing that helped me through feeling like I didn't deserve to be there or feeling like I wasn't good enough was realizing that logically, if they chose you for the job, that means you deserve to be there. If they chose you, that means that they wanted you because you bring value to the company, that they see the potential in you and are willing to invest in you. Also, sometimes it feels like when you go into a new job that you have to know everything, but honestly, compared to school, it's like school teaches you 20-30% of what you will do as an engineer, and the rest you will learn as you go. School teaches you fundamentals, but a lot of the times the things that I ended up working on were more specialized. I also want to say that this feeling of imposter syndrome doesn't go away overnight. As evidenced by my story, it's taken me years to really feel confident as a software engineer. I wouldn't say I'm an expert on anything, but I do believe in myself and my ability. I think part of it is because I've developed a really strong sense of self and independence. There's this thought I have. The only person who can define who I am is myself. People can say whatever they want about me, but the things they say don't define me because I know who I am. For example, as you can see, my office is decorated in BTS photos. I go on Zoom calls at work with this as my background, and I've spoken to a group of over 900 people on Zoom at work and said that I love BTS. People can say or think whatever they want about me because of that, but I will never be ashamed of my love of BTS. And if someone wants to judge me, that speaks a lot more about them than it does me. Having this self-confidence is a lot easier said than done, as is moving past imposter syndrome. Some days you'll feel great, and some days the feeling may return. So it's important to be patient, kind, and forgiving to yourself. I think this strong sense of self and independence really helped me with the last Google scholarship I got, which was a travel grant to go to the Grace Hopper celebration in 2019. I was going to vlog this experience, but it sucked, so I didn't end up recording much. To be honest, unless you want to go to the talks, I don't think Grace Hopper is really worth it, especially if you're paying out of pocket. And if you're looking for a job or interview, most people had them set up beforehand. A lot of companies just had booths for questions or random generic free stuff. And when people say Grace Hopper is highly competitive, it totally is. Since I came from a small school in the Midwest, there were so many times when I introduced myself, and once people, both students and recruiters, heard that, they would treat me really dismissively. So that was really frustrating. It's also a lot more geared towards internships than full-time jobs. I talked to some of my women tech maker friends about this because I was really frustrated, and their friends from smaller schools unfortunately had similar experiences to me. At least I know I wasn't alone, but yeah, it wasn't great. There were some people I became friends with, and it was an opportunity to meet with some of my women tech maker friends again. And I did technically get my current full-time job out of it at a company that is actually local to where I live. So at least there was that. I guess I'll say this because it's something that I didn't really consider when I was looking at colleges, but if there's a company that you really want to work for or a place you really want to live, I would suggest looking at schools near that area just because it'll be easier for you to get a job at that company or in that area. Like, the companies may recruit at your school. At the same time, you really should just do what is best for you. I think it's more important that you find a match with the work that you'll be doing or with the culture of the company than just the name of the company. Now that takes me to graduating in 2020 with my 3 degrees, and in July I started my current job being a software engineer at a large retail corporation. The first year I'm part of a rotational program where we spend 6 months on one team and 6 months on another. Being that there's a pandemic, I've been working from home the entire time. My first rotation was spent on a front-end team doing web development. Since the company is a retailer, I was working on components for product, category, and search pages using React, JavaScript, and TypeScript. My second rotation is on a security team doing back-end development and writing tests using Spock, which is a Groovy framework. After this rotation is over, I'll join a team permanently for a final placement. The reason why I chose this job was partly because of the rotational program. I don't really know exactly what I want to do in tech yet, and you've heard from all my different work experiences how diverse this field is. I like how I'm able to explore different roles and stay at the same company, and they're also just really supportive. At the beginning of the job, we had a 3-week onboarding process, just getting used to the company, and it was with other people who were in the program, so it was nice to start with a cohort of people who are kind of in the same place and have had the same experiences. It is just like really supportive. I have really enjoyed working with my team. The culture at this company I think fits me a lot more, just because everyone is really open, and it's really common for us to have one-on-ones just to get to know each other and learn about different roles. There's a lot of learning opportunities, which is emphasized at the company too. Now it's time for some more Belinda philosophy. If you have not realized it yet, I like to think a lot and reflect a lot on my experiences, and during the time I've been working full-time, I've been thinking a lot about the idea of passion. Because after graduating college, I was in a really big existential crisis. When I say passion, I mean this as something that feeds your soul, that gives you energy, life, meaning, and is a part of your identity. For me, that's more like music, dance, art, and performance. Those things are so integral to my being that I often forget to mention them because they are so integral and so ingrained in my life, like eating or sleeping. It's something that I just do because it's part of who I am. That is how I define passion. But passion is different from being interested or motivated or being capable. I think a person can be motivated and great at work without it being their passion. Because when you really think about it, the idea of passion is also intertwined with privilege. And imposter syndrome is also really intertwined with privilege. So we are always told to find what we're passionate about. Do that, study that, make a job out of that. In school, it feels like your identity is tied to your major. When you introduce yourself, you often talk about what your major is. Freshman year of college, I used to complain about computer science all the time. So my friend asked me, why am I still taking that computer science class and majoring in computer science if I didn't like it? The answer to that question is that I'm a Southeast Asian woman who is the daughter of immigrants. My dad was a refugee who swam across a river in the middle of the night to get to a refugee camp in Thailand, where he stayed for a year until he could eventually make it to the US for a better life. And as an entry-level engineer, now I make about the same amount as my parents' combined income after they have been working for 30 years. My scope of possibility and opportunity was limited. There are many spaces that I couldn't enter because I didn't know about them or because I never saw anyone like me there. I didn't think of them as options. Like when it came time to finding a college. In high school, I was top 5 out of 600 people in my class. I did sports, I did music, I was in a million clubs, I had a part-time job at the library, I volunteered over 100 hours every year of high school, and I thought I was going to go to community college for most of high school. So privilege isn't just having the ability or the option or the opportunity to do something, it's knowing that it exists. Then in college, I didn't have the privilege to drop classes if I didn't like them or if it wasn't going well. I was one class into computer science, and even if I didn't like it at all at that point, I would see it through and I would become good at it. I didn't have the privilege to only study what I wanted or to take a chance on a dream career. I know this doesn't apply to everyone because everyone's situation is different, and there will probably be people that say if it's truly your passion and your dream, you should just do that and keep trying and don't give up. But it's not that easy because there are systems and institutions in the way that you have little control over. I say all of this not to be discouraging, although I admit that looking at all the injustice in this world is really frustrating and discouraging. And who knows, maybe one day I'll find a way to live off my passion, or my passion will change. I say this so that we can be more empathetic. I say this because I want other people to know that it's okay to just have a job that's a job. Honestly, it's likely a lot of people have jobs that are just jobs because we live in a world where you need money. It's okay if you're not passionate about the thing you're studying or the thing you're doing. You can be fully capable, motivated, interested in doing or studying something, but not feel passionate about it. It's okay. I wanted to share this because this idea brings me a lot of comfort. It means I don't have to pretend to be somebody I'm not, which is exhausting. And if you noticed throughout this video, it contributed a lot to the imposter syndrome I was feeling. So, while I don't eat, sleep, breathe, and feel a burning passion for tech and coding, what pushed me through this journey and all of my experiences is the belief that technology is powerful because it can transform our lives for the better. Whether it's the actual tech itself or the careers in tech or the skills we learn from working on tech, technology can help make people's lives easier and safer. It can help us communicate better. A career in tech pays well, and there's a lot of opportunity for growth and mobility. Tech makes us think about problems in different ways, and it teaches us about working hard, perseverance, and determination. I'm incredibly grateful for the many experiences I was able to have from being in tech, all those scholarships and conferences, internships, and people I met. And I want to share these things with other people, especially women and people of color. There was so much I didn't know when I first got started, and so many things I learned throughout my journey into tech. I literally went into tech knowing no one and nothing about computer science or this industry, so I wanted to make this video and share what I've learned with you. Maybe there are things you'll be able to relate to or things that make you think differently. I also just hope that by hearing my story, especially if you're a woman or a person of color, you can see that there's a place for you in tech to be successful if that's where you wish to be. And maybe you could say that that's where my passion really lies. It's sharing my story and hoping that it'll help others and inspire others and open a door for those who want to follow. So that was my journey into tech, and now we can talk about mooncakes. So this is how I assemble mooncakes. I take the matcha outer part and I wrap the inner red bean filling with it, and then I roll it around in rice flour. The reason why I pressed the form so many times is because my outside dough ended up being too soft. I pressed it so many times so that the dough doesn't stick, and then it comes out in these nice shapes. This mold makes a shape of a rose. Mooncakes are traditionally made for the Mid-Autumn Festival, but I am trying to become better at making them. Hopefully by the time that Mid-Autumn Festival comes around again, I'll be able to make perfect mooncakes. This one is a different kind of flour, and the third mold is a flour that looks like this. Since the matcha dough is kind of soft, I feel like they didn't hold the shape really well, but they did end up looking pretty cute. I'll cut one open so you can see what it looks like. They're about 30 grams each, so that they're more bite-sized and they make the perfect snack. Anyways, thank you so much for watching this video. I had a lot of fun making mooncakes and talking about my journey into tech. I hope you enjoyed listening to my experiences and reflections. You should let me know if Belinda's Tech Cafe should make a comeback. Let's meet again soon, but until then, bye!